Perfect. And the regular meeting of the Minneapolis Civil Rights Commission will now begin. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mackenzie May. I'm the chair of the Civil Rights Commission, and I'm going to call this meeting for December 20th, 2021 to order. I want to welcome everyone joining us this evening. As we begin, I will note for the record that this meeting has remote participation by members of the commission and city staff as authorized under Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021, due to the declared local public health emergency. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. At this time, I will ask the clerk to call the roll so we can verify a quorum for this meeting.
Okay, Commissioner May.
Present.
Commissioner Shoemake. Commissioner Kobia is present. Commissioner Crowder.
Present.
Commissioner Berquist. Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Devinish.
Present.
Commissioner Fine.
Present.
Commissioner Falk.
Present.
Commissioner Hartz.
Here.
Commissioner Herkman. Commissioner Lord.
Here.
Commissioner Rance. Commissioner Shepard. And Commissioner Stignani. All right, we have 8 people, which is a quorum. We currently have 15 people on the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Kobia. Let the record reflect we have a quorum. Commissioners, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move to approve adoption of the agenda.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Hart. Second.
Commissioner Hart seconds. Thank you. Any discussion before the clerk calls the roll? I wanted to note that on Thursday, I did get another email from the DOJ stating that they would not be present with us due to internal matters that they cannot discuss. I will be holding them up until the new year. So I don't know if that's something that we want to try and plan for again, but that will not be happening. So that is why that is not present on the agenda. Thankfully, I was able to get that off of the agenda before it was published. Any other discussion? Okay, with seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner May.
Yes.
Commissioner Kobia, yes. Commissioner Crowder.
Yes.
I see there's more people who joined. Commissioner Berquist. Commissioner Berquist. Okay. Commissioner Devinish.
Yes.
Commissioner Fine.
Yes.
Commissioner Falk.
Yes.
Commissioner Hartz.
Yes.
Commissioner Lord.
Yes.
Has anyone else joined that I didn't call? I don't think so.
I see.
Amy Berquist, I've just joined. I apologize. I was having some technical difficulties.
Okay. Was there anyone else who called in?
Commissioner Stignani.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, motion passes.
Great, thank you. That motion passes and the agenda is adopted.
I will move acceptance of the minutes of November 15th.
Yep, that's next on my script. Sorry if this was out of order. Is that all right?
Yep.
Next is the acceptance of minutes from the November 15th, 2021 meeting. May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Move
All right.
to accept the minutes.
Commissioner Fine, is there a second?
Crowder second.
We have a second from Commissioner Crowder. Is there any discussion? We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner May,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Kobia, yes. Commissioner Crowder,
Yes.
Commissioner Berquist, Commissioner Berquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Devinish,
Yes.
Commissioner Fine,
Yes.
Commissioner Falk,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Lord,
Yes.
Commissioner Stignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. That motion passes and the minutes are accepted as presented. So we will move to item 4 on the agenda, which is the housing. Which is the housing letter to investors and an update on the opportunity to support TOPA legislation, which will be led by Commissioner Lord. Commissioner Lord, are you available?
Yeah,
Great,
I
thank you.
am. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Okay, great. So I know that the draft letter that I wanted to talk about had been attached to the email with the agenda and the Microsoft Teams link. So if maybe someone could pull that up. I don't think I'm able to pull things up on the screen. That would be great, and we could talk about that.
I can share my screen, Commissioner Lord, momentarily.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So while Kayla's doing that, maybe what I could do is just talk, just remind us of what we were talking about in the last time. So we had some conversations inspired by the Urban Institute report around huge disparities in home ownership between white folks in Minneapolis and Black folks, one of the worst, if not the worst, major market disparity in the nation. And one of the drivers of that in our community has been a significant uptake in investor-owned homes, particularly in communities of color. And so, what's happened is, larger investment companies from outside of the Twin Cities, some of them offshore, have come in to our communities, particularly communities of color, and kind of swooped in and purchased a lot of single family homes. There are a variety of deleterious consequences to that. One being it's taking dollars out of our community. It is kind of making it very difficult for people in the community to compete with all cash offers that these investors are often making. And, what I was proposing in our previous meeting was that we actually reach out to some of these investment companies and really ask them as participants of our community, they're community members, right? They're property owners in our community, and alert them to this issue and ask for their help in trying to kind of come to the table with us and discuss with us some thoughts that they might have on how they could continue to, do business, but also contribute to addressing this disparity in our community. So I had shared a draft of a letter that I was proposing we send to some of those investment companies in a previous meeting. I got some feedback from the department as well as some other commissioners that maybe we should, not be proposing specific solutions, but really inviting them into the conversation with an initial communication, which seemed appropriate. And so I've come to you today with a revised letter that I would like the commission to endorse and support to send to one investment company in particular, and that is Front Yard Residential. So why Front Yard Residential? You may have seen that the Federal Reserve recently did a report on investor-owned properties in the Twin Cities. I actually followed up with one of the analysts who wrote that report to get a Minneapolis specific accounting of the largest kind of investment companies that own the most homes in Minneapolis. And Front Yard Residential, according to the kind of unique data cut that the Federal Reserve provided me, was the #1, largest owner of single family homes in Minneapolis that were, being used to rent out. Specifically, they had more than 200 homes. I believe the count was either like 220, 225, something like that. And they are disproportionately located in North Minneapolis, specifically in the Camden neighborhood. And maybe I'll just stop there. Do we have a commissioner who's from Ward 4 on the phone today?
Yes,
At all?
yes, Cindy Devinish.
Oh, Cindy, hi. Commissioner Devinish, I'm just wondering if you have any like personal or firsthand knowledge. They rent their homes through a management company called Havenbrook Homes. So I'm just wondering if you've maybe seen that in your community.
Yes, I've heard of Heaven Brook Apartments. I personally have had no interaction with them, but yes, I am aware of them.
Okay. Well, a lot of the that is kind of the management company that Front Yard Residential uses. And as I mentioned, a lot of their we actually have this is very cool. We have actually interactive maps that show the distribution of these homes, and what you would see if you looked at that map is that there's a huge number of them in the Camden area, and then there's a kind of like a smattering across other parts of the city, but they're really concentrated, which, I suppose if you're Front Yard Residential, that makes sense because it makes maintaining them more efficient. People have to drive around less, and it probably creates some operational efficiencies for them. So based on that kind of digging into this issue a little bit more, I'm proposing this revised letter. I have reached out to the councilwoman-elect in Ward 4, Ms. Vita, who I believe is going to be the new council person there. I have not heard back from her. I've just dropped her office a note because I thought, she might be a good stakeholder to talk to about this. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm happy to read the contents of this letter aloud if that would be helpful. Would that be helpful, folks? Just to run through it.
Yeah, can you do that? That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Lord.
Okay, sure. So it's addressed to the CEO of Front Yard Residential, George Ellison. Dear Mr. Ellison, your company is currently the largest investor owner of rental homes in Minneapolis, with more than 200 rental homes, most of them in North Minneapolis. While these homes are creating profits for you and your shareholders, they're also contributing to inequity in the Twin Cities. The Minneapolis Commission on Civil Rights has identified housing inequity as a key civil rights issue in Minneapolis and is asking for your help. The Twin Cities has seen a dramatic decrease in home ownership by people of color in the last 20 years. Between 2000 and 2018, the percent of Black-headed households that owned their own homes dropped by almost a third, from 31% to 21%. Some of that decline is attributable to the increase in single-family rental units in communities of color. According to a recent research report published by the Urban Institute, the number of single-family rental units more than doubled in the Twin Cities from 2005 to 2020, while the number of single-family homes grew only 8% over that period. Single-family rental units have become increasingly concentrated in neighborhoods with higher shares of low-income residents and residents of color. The share of single-family rental units owned by investors rose from about 4% in 2005 to 14% in 2020. Investor-owned single-family rentals may have a negative impact on communities, particularly communities of color. Profits leave the state. They do not contribute to local businesses or jobs. Research shows that investor-owned companies are more likely to evict tenants than other property owners, contributing to housing insecurity. And investor competition for homes can lead to higher prices, pricing out community members. All community stakeholders have an obligation to address these inequities. To that end, we invite your company to become part of the solution. We would like to ask for your engagement in helping create a Minneapolis where communities of color share equally in the benefits of home ownership. Specifically, we would like your thoughts on how your company could use its leadership position in this area to support home ownership in the communities in which you rent. We would welcome your thoughts at a future commission meeting. We meet the third Monday of every month. Please follow up with Commission Chair May at email or Commissioner Cindy Lord at email, and we can get you on the agenda. We thank you in advance for your help and look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So what I kind of am asking for is, an endorsement of this to send to George Ellison. We realize we, cannot legally compel any sort of response, but part of our charge is to engage our community, and property owners in our community are, by definition, members of our community. And I think it's completely appropriate for us to try to raise this issue to their attention and ask for their partnership to address some potentially deleterious impact that their business practices may be having.
Absolutely. Should we open the floor to have commissioners give their thoughts?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I would definitely say I support this letter. I don't feel like we're necessarily giving them any solutions, but like you said, an invitation to even have this conversation and learn maybe what some of our ideas would be, just based off of conversations that we've had. I think that this is a very big issue in our community. When I've been looking online at houses, a lot of them are now owned by Zillow because Zillow is starting to own homes and things as such. So it's not like it's getting tightened down. This is a growing issue. But I'd love to hear other commissioners' thoughts into our ask, the letter, and how the commission thinks that we can support this.
Commissioner Devinish has her hand raised.
Oh yeah, Commissioner Devinish, that'd be great.
Thank you for writing this letter, Chair. I'm sorry, Commissioner Lord, I apologize. So not only do I support it, but I'm wondering, within the city of Minneapolis or Hennepin County itself, if any of these agencies would be willing to partner with us in these various letters. For example, Commissioner, we wrote a letter to supporting, Commissioner Rance led a letter writing to Black-owned banks and establishments. I'm wondering if, we have a lot of, I see a lot of community organizations that have diversity and inclusion embedded in their belief systems. And I'm wondering if they'd be willing to partner with us in writing these letters for their support as well.
Mm-hmm. Like, are you thinking like maybe like local credit unions or like businesses or like
Right.
government
Yeah.
institutions?
I'm sorry. Yeah. All the above. I think, I think about Hennepin County, how they have like their own, and, people of color group, city Minneapolis, obviously has the, discrimination. So I'm just wondering, what can we do to partner moving, maybe not this conversation or moving forward? What can we do to partner with different organizations to have a form a, I guess, a common thread of a belief system of this is because, I keep on seeing these ongoing conversations, and I'm just wondering, what can we do as a commission to not just have these conversations and put forth these letters, but hold these organizations accountable, and to form a unison. So I guess that is my question. Sorry.
So are you suggesting, I just want to make sure I understood what you're saying. It sounds to me like you're suggesting that we try to solicit some additional signatories to the letter so that it could potentially come from like us and organization X, organization Y, and organization Z. Is that what you're suggesting?
If possible, I realize it might be out of our realm, but I'm just interested in how other people feel about that idea. If it's, my shooting over, but we all watch the news, we all hear like these ongoing conversations, and in my mind, in order to see change, we have to have a common goal. And in order to have that common goal, I think we need to bring different people and organization to the table. So that is, yes, what you're saying is correct, Chair Lord, Commissioner Lord, I'm sorry. So thank you.
Commissioner Fine.
Yes. I think the letter was very well done. I have to applaud the way the letter was put together. But I have a question and a suggestion. The question is basically the letter seems to me is telling this entity or any other entities that they should probably dispose of some of their property. And I'm wondering what thought was given to that, because ultimately to increase the number of owned units, they and others like them might have to dispose of property. And I'm not sure how, what kind of thought was given to that. But on the other end, I have sort of a suggestion. At the end of the letter, it suggests that Mr. Ellison contact either the chair or Commissioner Lord, which I think is good. And I have a long history of civil rights, and when we used to do a lot of things to try and publicize an issue, we would call for a public hearing to try and get entities and other people to sort of testify and to publicize an issue, because we obviously have limited power. But one thing we can do is publicize, and leave the issues out there to hopefully try and find some resolutions. So I thought as a suggestion, there might be sort of indication that we are considering a public hearing, or at least if it's not in the letter, when Mr. Ellison contacts a commissioner, it could be brought up to the commissioner that, or it could be brought up to Mr. Ellison that we may conduct a public hearing on this issue, which I'm not sure they would want to see.
Chair May, could I respond to that?
Please, yes.
I guess two things. One, with respect to your question about, it sounds like we're telling them they should dispose of some of their property. I'm not sure that's like the singular solution. As I was researching some of the investment firms that owned, that were a little further down the list, owned fewer properties in Minneapolis. Like one of them, for example, and I'm not remembering the name, but one of them had a rent to own program, for example. Another possibility would be implementing a criteria around home purchasing. The Urban Institute, for example, in their report did a really good job of providing kind of a very clear definition around, neighborhoods that might be more vulnerable. And so you could, for example, create a criteria around the neighborhoods you're going to purchase in, and, maybe not purchase in neighborhoods that might be most negatively impacted, for example. So that's what I think is part of the conversation part that could be, useful, because I don't think it's necessarily, well, we want you to sell all of your property, and I guess the thing about the hearing is really interesting too. I've never heard of that. Maybe someone in the department can provide some perspective on that. I'd be interested to hear more about how or if we've used that in the past.
That was my
Chairman.
Yeah, I was going to ask if somebody would be able to give some more information about what a public hearing would, or what that entails. I've never heard of it myself, but I do think that is a great idea as far as publicizing this as from my understanding of what I took from what you said, Commissioner Fine, is like a lot of people would have a lot of things to say. I mean, I can think of a handful of families that have been told that they had to move because the homeowners that were people of color were selling their homes. Renters were told they had to move because the homeowners were selling their homes to investor properties. So just a lot of things like that that I've heard. And so I just thought, like, wow, the publicizing part of it and in the public hearing, I'm curious about what that would be, because this is a huge issue. And I do see Miss Neef's hand up. So I think that did you want to unmute?
Sure. Thank you, Chair May and commissioners. I can shed a little bit of light, I believe, on what Commissioner Fine may be speaking of when he says a public hearing. The commission has not conducted public hearings for the time I've been with the commission, about the last 6 years, but the authority of the commission under 141.40 of the Code of Ordinances does include the authority to conduct public meetings and forums and gather and disseminate information to governmental agencies and to the public. So the commission could, if it wished, conduct a public meeting or a public forum in order to discuss this matter, in order to gather stories from the community about how this is impacting them, and so on and so forth. It does not have any authority to make Mr. Ellison appear at any such public meeting, but it certainly can use that type of event to raise awareness.
I would
so
like
hopefully that's helpful in terms of providing some context about the commission's authority to do something like that.
Thank you. Commissioner Devinish.
Yes. I'm wondering if this is one of those things that we should use the racial equity tool to bring forth because I think this is an important conversation, and yeah, so I just would like to put that on the table as well.
Definitely. Commissioner Folk, I see your hand is up as well.
Yeah, I was just wondering if Commissioner Lord could give more context. I think this is in the same question that Commissioner Fine brought up about just the potential solutions or kind of, it sounds like we didn't want to include any potential solutions in the letter, but just wondering like if we're reading it from that investor's perspective, if potentially some of those options that you had listed, it might be beneficial to include just as like, here's some potential, you know, solutions we want to discuss with you, or just opening that up so they're not immediately thinking like, no, I don't want to have this conversation because you just want me to sell my property. If that makes sense. I'm just trying to think of ways that might make it a more open-ended and get the other party to engage.
If I could just briefly respond to that, you know, I'm a little hesitant to do that only because we haven't been able to get feedback from the community. You know, kind of going back to what someone else was saying, maybe it was Commissioner Devinish, just, you know, we haven't really understood what the desires of the community would be. And I think it would be kind of premature and uncool to suggest solutions without getting that input. I mean, that's why I kind of reached out to Councilwoman-elect Vita, and
yeah, perhaps
if I'm mispronouncing her name.
Sorry.
Because I think it'd be great if
not necessarily potential solutions, but just I'm just trying to think if there's a way to open that door. And I think in a lot of ways they might not think of any potential, you know, it might be a non-answer, or like it might be a stop to having even a conversation if they can't visualize and think of other ways that there could potentially be a solution that isn't necessarily just not going to benefit them as a company, just coming it from like a business perspective. So I wonder if there is just a way to make that dialogue more approachable.
Right.
And so not necessarily like, here's solutions, maybe it's like other companies have approached these solutions in other cities, or, you know, we want to have this dialogue and stress that again, that these are not solutions we're saying we need them to approach, but just kind of opening that up a little bit, just because if this is not work that they've engaged in, I don't know if they really will understand or really be able to kind of like want to have that dialogue, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Folk. Commissioner Bergquist.
Yeah, just to add a little more context to what Andrea was mentioning about our authority to hold public hearings and public forums. When I first joined the commission back in, I think it was 2014, so it would have been fall of 2014, the commission had a couple of forums on housing issues, and there should be, if somebody has the time to look back in the records of the commission, there should be sort of a summary of what we learned from those hearings. Essentially, it was panels of experts talking and then a bit of Q&A from the community. So it sounds like for this, we might want to have a different approach, but there is a recent history on that specific issue with the commission.
Would you be interested in being involved in looking into that, or maybe even, you know, working with Commissioner Lord on this topic?
If I'm on the commission next year, sure.
To be determined. Okay. Okay. Any other commissioners for discussion?
I was just going to enter one other thing, and that is that I was on the commission so long ago, it was a long time ago. We used to hold public hearings all the time, and it was sort of it was hopefully to get people involved on civil rights issues. And I just saw this as being a possibility. I'm not saying that we should open up with a public hearing right away. It might be best to do this letter first and just see where we go from there. But that the public hearing or a public forum is actually a great way to sort of bring this out to the public and get people involved and come up with maybe some suggestions or solutions.
Yeah, I agree. And thank you for your input, Commissioner Fine. Definitely, if it's been that long since we've had one, I think Commissioner Bergquist said, or maybe you were just mentioning the housing one that we had back in 2014, but I'd love to be creative in ways that we could.
That's the only one that we've had, as best I know.
Okay, yeah, so that's what you meant. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think we could definitely figure out ways to get that incorporated and get feedback. But we have Kayla with your hand up as well.
Yes, thank you, Chair May. I just wanted to add kind of 2 cents from the department perspective. Commissioner Devinish had brought up kind of collaborating with, it sounded like the city in addition to potentially outside entities. And so I just wanted to put a plug in here that the folks in CPED that do this work that we've met with and I met with Commissioner Lord previously, I think would definitely be open to further conversation, both, potentially on their thoughts on the letter and their take on kind of how best to potentially address this issue. But then I also think they might be a good resource to converse with prior to setting up that public forum as well. They've been really open up to this point, so I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. One of the thoughts that I had when Commissioner Devinish brought that up was, why not even reach out to First Independence Bank? Because that is a part of their mission. If you have had a chance to look at their page or follow their social media presence, they really are focusing on reducing those disparities in communities of color. And so I really appreciate you bringing that idea to the table, and I wanted to put that out there again. Well, thank you, Commissioner Lord, for that report. And I will ask, oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Commissioner Lord.
Well, I guess I just feel like we don't necessarily have resolution on an action step. And I want to make sure we're clear about like what we want to do. I would be, I thought Commissioner Devinish's idea of getting, potentially some additional organizations to support it and have it be, issued jointly by a few other constituencies made a ton of sense. I'd also be open to, having a CPED review it as well, although it's hard for me to believe a city department would sign off on it necessarily. Kayla, you correct me if I'm wrong. They could probably provide some feedback, I suppose. But is that the route that we want to take? And let's also kind of balance that against like time too, right? Like that'll take a month or 2 months or something like that. And I also love the idea of like doing a forum, maybe hosting it in the ward in which the majority of homes are owned, which would be Ward 4, might be a great place to do that as well.
Commissioner Signani?
Yep, thank you. Rather than, if the departments aren't inclined to support, they should, we should at least be having the departments that have the data be presenting data at the forum if we could. Ask them to provide data, or else through our own requests, bring data from those departments forward, because the data for our own cities should be in our hands through the department. As I recall, we also have the ability to do research projects and present that. I like the idea of a public hearing. So, and we do it, with media presence. So, That was my point.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'm also wondering if we did just go ahead with the letter as is and then put it possibly on the agenda for 2022 in terms of collaboration and next steps. I also think that could be a possibility as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, here's the deal. Like, here's the realistic scenario. We're going to send the letter. Nothing is going to happen. Like, I mean, I think the odds are very good that they will, Front Yard will ignore it because there's really very little upside for them to respond to it, right? So I think, you know, maybe it's like a parallel path thing where we send it, you know, as is, but then we have a public forum in the 4th Ward. We can, you know, start to talk to some other stakeholders and get their thoughts and their feedback on maybe action steps. But that we've at least kind of got some momentum going and have done something concrete. Any thoughts on that?
I'm interested in here. I think that's can't hurt. I think as long as we have a parallel path mentioned in the letter, just so that they don't look at the letter as an end to its own path. But you know, love your volunteer. You know, we love your to voluntarily attend their public hearing and have your input as to your intent for the community and so forth and so on. And
yeah, that kind of like what Bob said. It's like following up with like, hey, we're going to be having some public forums about this, and you know, we'll keep you apprised of them and would appreciate your attendance and input or something like that.
Just get them spending marketing dollars right away. So.
So I'm gonna make a motion. Maybe can I make a motion? Is that okay? Like, I'm gonna move to like send the letter with an append additional copy that we're going to be moving forward with some public forums, and that we will look forward to, they should expect to receive an invitation to them, and we look forward to their input.
Okay, so you want a motion to, yes, but so my one question I guess that I had is, do we want to, because it sounds like what you're saying is that we'll have the public hearings. I mean, I'm all for that next year. I just, maybe that's something that
I mean, I'm not sure if hearings
is
the right word. What I heard from Andrea is they're like, they can be forums, right? Not really judicial type things. Is that right?
And Andrea Neef is asking if there's been a motion to have public forums or have a public forum.
Yeah, we could have that motion first.
Ms. Neef, you have your hand up.
Certainly, thank you, Chair May. If I may, I would just note that if we don't have a motion and have a vote to have a public forum, I don't know that I would include it in a letter that says you're going to have a public forum if we haven't put that on the agenda yet. Also, just to respond to the question about whether it would be judicial or not, no, this is this is not a quasi-judicial hearing in the nature of a a public hearing that would come before the commission due to a charge of discrimination. This is a completely different type of public meeting that's not judicial. It's more informational and community gathering in nature. I hope that clarifies a little bit.
Thank you. So should we put forth a motion to plan for a public forum? Oh, Commissioner Copia?
Yeah, I just had a question about whether we, I'm just really not sure whether we can bind the next commission to having a hearing
Right.
by voting on it now. I'm just not sure of what that looks like for, you know, the commission, because like our commission sort of ends at the end of the year.
Right. Exactly. Kayla, can we have your feedback from that? Or is that the commission's feedback? I see Commissioner Bergquist with her hand up.
I was just going to suggest one thing we could do now is create a working group to explore the idea of having a public hearing and to initiate planning so that we don't have to wait until February of next year to get moving on this. That way, you know, new commissioners, current commissioners who are continuing on, and new commissioners could like join the working group, and people can get started on it as soon as they're interested in doing so.
I think that's a great idea. I do see Kayla's hand up now.
Thank you, Chair May. And I think you know what I'm going to say is that just the department would discourage additional working groups just because there's quite a few public meetings that already need to be noticed and everything like that for just timing for our staff. So that would be my 2 cents. I do tend to agree that binding the incoming commission is potentially not ideal.
One thing I want to add to that is, I guess in terms of being able to have something secured for next year, a working group would be the best way to go about that, so that we don't have to wait until February to hope that that's something that can, because like my understanding is that the task force is there to last 1 year, right? And I mean, I don't know, we can get other feedback, but the housing has been a serious enough issue that I think there is a lot of work that could go into it. But I have both sentiments. I've had both thoughts. Like, we'll have an almost entirely new commission next year. Ms. Neef.
Yes, thank you, Chair May and Commissioners. If I may make a suggestion, both task force and working groups are subject to the open meeting law, and their meetings have to be publicly noticed and staffed. And I hear that concern in Kayla's comment that there's just a problem staffing so many meetings. One potential alternative is to have a group consisting of not of a quorum of any subcommittee. So in other words, no more than one person from each subcommittee could be on it, but that would just informally begin to generate ideas, but not take any action. If there's no action being taken and it's just an informal group, not consisting of a quorum that just starts to generate ideas, then you could meet informally without it being a formal task force or working group.
Commissioner Bergquist, is your hand up again?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that my understanding is that as of the first of the year, the committee membership is vacated. Like, we have to reconstitute the committees. So I don't see any problem with having, you know, people who express interest now meeting in the form of this working group in January. And certainly if there are no subcommittees meeting in January, then that wouldn't pose any additional burden on the department staff. So in my view, it would allow, you know, and, you know, with the caveat that commissioners whose fate on continuing in the commission, like myself, is unknown, maybe they shouldn't be part of it. But I don't see why there would be issues of having quorums of committees that no longer exist as of January 1st.
Do we have interest in that from the commission? Can I hear from the commission members, please? Is the Commissioner Devinish?
I'm more than willing to help and be on any board that promotes our actual work. I do feel that is why we're here. Is I think about when you were asked why you wanted to join the commission, we had to come up with reasons. And this letter that needs to be completed should convey the work and the reasons why we want to join this commission in the first place. So I think the problem is evident, and whatever needs to be taken to move forward, I definitely support. So thank you, Commissioner Lord, for writing this letter.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have interested participants in a working group? I know I'm definitely interested. I assume.
I mean, I'm obviously
Commissioner Lord.
interested. This is Commissioner Lord.
Commissioner Fine, Commissioner Bergquist.
I'm interested. I just may be out of town at times in January, but otherwise I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, I could participate as a member of the public, I suppose. But my understanding is I won't be on the commission effective January 1st because the hiring or whatever process hasn't been completed.
Okay, so your term is up this year.
Yeah, my term is up as of the end of this month.
Oh, bummer. Okay. Well, let's set a motion forth. Can we set a motion forth for a working group? Is that our next step?
I second.
Okay.
I second the motion, Commissioner Lord.
We've had discussion, so I will have the clerk call the roll.
Do we need to say who's going to be on it in the motion? Would that be helpful?
So, okay, a motion to create a working group regarding housing discrimination in Minneapolis. Is that okay if we title it that? Or do you want to? I want to leave. I don't want.
How about housing? How about housing equity?
Housing equity, yeah. That sounds great. I like that. It's strengths based. So a working group focused on, or called Housing Equity Work Group, with Commissioner Lord, myself, Chair May, Commissioner Devinish, Commissioner Fine, and then we'll have Commissioner Fine, and then knowing that Commissioner Bergquist could potentially be available for that as a public member. And then, so that's the motion. And we'll have the clerk call the roll, please.
Okay. 1 sec.
Thank you.
Get all this done.
I think we haven't had, I'm sorry.
Okay. Let's see here. All right. It looks like Commissioner Herkman joined too. So, Commissioner May.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Kobia, yes. Commissioner Crowder.
Yes.
Commissioner Bergquist.
Yes.
Commissioner Devinish.
Yes.
Commissioner Fine.
Yes.
Commissioner Folk.
Yes.
Commissioner Hartz.
Yes.
Commissioner Herkman, if you want to.
Abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Lord.
Yes.
Commissioner Stignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Oh, thank you. That motion is passed, and we will have a housing equity working group to work towards the goals in this letter, and then hopefully potential other issues related to housing equity, which would be a housing forum, a public forum potentially. Next then for our motion lineup. Oh, is that you, Commissioner?
Are we going to have a motion, based on the fact we decided we couldn't commit to a forum?
Yeah.
And put that in the letter? I guess in the spirit of like doing something, I would like to make a motion to send the letter as is.
Oh, I see. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
And then can we have the clerk call the roll on the motion, please?
Okay. Commissioner May.
Yes.
Commissioner Kobiet, no. Commissioner Crowder.
Yes.
Commissioner Berquist.
Yes.
Commissioner Devinish.
Yes.
Commissioner Fine.
Yes.
Commissioner Folk.
Yes.
Commissioner Hartz.
Yes.
Commissioner Herkman.
Yes.
Commissioner Lord.
Yes.
Commissioner Stignani.
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And then, okay, yeah. Is that the only two, Commissioner Lord, or maybe I kind of misunderstood, but did we want to put in the motion for a public forum, or is that something that we'll be able to plan for in the working group, do you think? Or think about
I think we
what that looks like?
decided we couldn't commit with this, knowing we were going to have so much turnover with the commissioners that we couldn't tie their hands.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else from you, Commissioner Lord?
No, I really want to thank everyone for their time and forbearance. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lord. I will direct the clerk to file and receive receive and file that report, please. And then, so for item 5 on the agenda will be the less lethal police data update, which will be given by Commissioner Stignani. And I'll invite Commissioner Stignani to give that report, please. Hi.
Hi. How's everyone doing? So we are still at step 1.5. We have had data request after data request. The data delivered is not responsive, and we will rekindle this January 1st. My term does go over, so they aren't getting rid of me yet. And so, Kayla, I haven't heard whether or not there was any other things going on, so Kayla, please jump on in here. But since we've had this thing in April, we've had 3 or 4 sets of data given to us. Of the data given to us, only the manuals, the police manuals were responsive. Everything else has been either obscured by open data exceptions, or it just hasn't been responsive. The data we got at last breath was bullets instead of non-lethal weapons data, and it's also just for SWAT. And so it was also missing the 2019 2020. So there's the data produced is defective in pretty much every dimension that we could have hoped for or not hoped for. And so that's kind of where we're at with this. The legacy will continue next year in January or February as we continue. Those who can continue terms will re-engage with us.
That sounds great. Thank you, Commissioner Stignani. And are there any questions from commissioners at this moment? Seeing no questions, I will direct the clerk to file and receive that report. And as Commissioner Stignani said, February, hoping to re-engage with some of those folks to, if we need to, that can be a plan. So hopefully we can get that going. But we also have item 6 on the agenda, and it is the new commission plan to be selected by, or that's what it says, but we'll see. Maybe Kayla has an update for us, but regarding the new commission. But my note just says that it's planned to be selected by February of next year. And not sure, I think the application's closed, but Kayla, did you have an update for that?
Not much additional than what you just noted, Chair May, but
Perfect.
I'll just say that we plan to go through the appointment process in the month of January, and we'll be inviting commissioners' participation like we've done in the past to sit on interview panels as you are interested in doing so. And then, yes, the plan and the hope is to have new appointed commissioners ready to go by a February meeting.
Okay. Great. Pretty consistent with last year. Yeah, and then we have an introduction of our new Civil Rights Interim Director. So is that, are we just introducing or, oh, there we go. Hi, okay.
Hello. Thank
Hello.
you, Chair May. So thanks for allowing me time on the agenda. I am Alberta Gillespie, and I've been the interim Civil Rights Director for about 5 weeks now. So, and it feels like 10 years now. I said, but for 5 weeks. And so I am excited to be in this position and really looking forward to working with each and every one of you. And I just wanted to briefly say hello. You please feel free to reach out to me at any time regarding questions, and I'd love to get your feedback about where you think we should be moving and going as a department. That is it for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I don't know why you were still talking, and I was just writing in the chat, and I was just going to say we definitely look forward to future collaboration. I know when Frank was the director, just had a lot of opportunities to connect and to see where there was areas of growth and connection, and even just being able to learn some parts of the department. So that was really appreciated, and just very excited to have you on board and welcome that open communication line. It's much appreciated.
And thank you all so much for the work that you do, for volunteering and making this happen on behalf of communities. So I so appreciate that. Thank you all.
Thank you. And the next line on the agenda, we have any new business. Oh, Commissioner Bergquist, is that your hand up?
Yes, it is. I wanted to go back to the previous agenda item about the new commissioners, and I'm wondering if Andrea can give us some information for those of us whose terms are expiring as of December 31st. Am I correct in my assumption that we are no longer on the commission while the process is pending? And I do want to note, and perhaps Commissioner Fine would have more information on this given his tenure on the commission, this has never before happened that commissioners weren't ready to be seated by the January meeting. And I think it's quite disruptive to the schedule, because the January meeting is typically where we elect our officers, and I don't know whether we'll be able to do that. So I just appreciate some guidance from Andrea about the implications of the department's failure to fill the slate of commissioners in time for the beginning of the year.
Thank you for raising that concern. Do we still have Ms. Neef on the line?
Yes, Chair May and Commissioner Bergquist. Thank you for the question. I have the ordinance in front of me, and I am attempting to answer it, but don't have an answer at the ready. I hadn't anticipated that question, so I do apologize. I will look into the question of whether everyone is done or whether terms continue pending new appointments, and get back to you. If not by the end of the meeting, how about tomorrow?
Great. And then a related question is for the case review panels. If a commissioner has sat on a case review panel, but that case review panel hasn't yet wrapped up its work by the end of December. If we are no longer on the commission, does that panel have to revisit the case with a new slate of commissioners? A follow-up question, I guess, I assume you don't have the answer to that one as well, but it's a related question.
Chairman and Commissioner Bergquist, thanks for the question. I don't have the answer to that question, but I can look into it. I would say if there is any possible way to wrap it up by the end of year, obviously that would be much preferred. But I will look at the rules and get you an answer to that question as well. I would anticipate that I would just send that to Kayla, who can circulate it, or to staff, whoever is circulating things at this time, who can circulate it as needed.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Bergquist, I was curious if there's anything on the department's end while we're all together that is slowing down the completion of that last review panel? Or anything that we can support on your end?
It is Commissioner Stignani's fault.
I don't want to say it's Commissioner Stignani's fault, but there were delays on the department's end that made it so that these review committees weren't ready to deliberate at the time they had hoped to deliberate. So, but I don't think there's anything the department can do at this stage.
Okay, so you have what you need to be able to potentially finish this by the first of the year?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then Commissioner Kobia.
Yep, just as the resident reads the commissioner who reads the internal operating procedures, I just want to mention that we, in section 102.1, explicitly state that the election of officers shall take place at the first regular commission meeting in January, and then again later explicitly state in 301.11 that commissioners shall indicate their committee preferences in writing to the newly elected chair of the commission at the January meeting. So I don't know what legal force this internal operating procedure has, but we're standing or looking like we'll violate it. Just FYI, I guess.
Ms. Neef.
Yes, as to the January meeting noted by Commissioner Kobia, we have the internal operating rules do, of course, take a backseat to the ordinance and to the appointment of commissioners. If we don't have enough commissioners for a commission, the internal operating rules obviously are subservient to that process. As far as, it does say shall take place in January, and we have in the past interpreted that as shall take place at the very first meeting of the year and shall not be delayed just because of commissioner preference or something of that sort. And in that spirit, we have done it at a February meeting in previous years.
I believe we did that this year. I think maybe this is a point for S&P to consider the language of, or maybe we can figure out, or maybe this is not going to be a problem going forward, but now this is the second straight year that we're missing a January meeting. So we're down to only 11 meetings a year.
Thank you. Commissioner Bergquist, is that your hand again? Or is that from last time? Oh.
I apologize. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I have a question. This is Chair Devin. My question is there anything current commissioners can do to help expedite the process? For example, I brought various new members to be potential members of the commission. So I'm just wondering if something is needed to help bring them on. Is there something that is needed that we can help with?
If that question was directed to the department, would you like me to respond? Commissioner Devin or Chair May?
Yes, it was directed to the department because basically it's going to be hard to move forward. So I'm just wondering, again, if there's something we can do to, current commissioners because I just want to move forward without losing some of our people, and just try to keep them while we can. So I don't know what's missing, but willing to extend a help if needed.
Sure. Yeah. So I can respond to that. That no one who's put in their applications for reappointment, is certainly still totally within the consideration period. There isn't any reason to think that folks wouldn't get reappointed. I will say that we made a decision collectively as a department to try to do all of our commission appointments in unison for the different commissions that the department supports, and so it was a collective decision with having low numbers of applications for our commissions that we give everyone some more time and we extend those deadlines and things like that. And so because of that, it's pushed our appointment process a little bit further down the road. I can say that we'll do everything in our power to expedite it and do it as efficiently as possible, but there's nothing that the commission needs to do at this point other than, of course, be responsive when we, invite you to participate in the interview panels. Just let us know as quickly as possible if you'd like to be involved and sign up for the slots that you are able to. That's all that I would ask at this point.
Thank you, Kayla. Does that wrap up the item 6 on the agenda, which was regarding the newly planned commission? We did already have our introduction of our new director, and then wanted to move to agenda item 8 for new business. If we have any commissioners that have any new business. And item 9 on our agenda is unfinished business. Unfinished business I would bring up would be the Department of Justice. I literally got a confirmation from them, either it was Monday or Tuesday, and then got a cancellation from them literally on Thursday. So curious of what commissioners' thoughts are, if we should continue to engage them. Just wanting some more feedback, because I was just like, oh, this is the second time that we've saved a spot on our agenda for you. And then this happened. So just curious if we should continue to pursue them or give them some air. Yeah, Commissioner Signani, please.
Was there any excuse given, or?
The excuse was given that some unexpected internal. It was just basically some things have been happening there that they didn't expect to happen, and yeah, it says due to internal reasons we cannot disclose. We will be largely unavailable into the new year. This is a recent development, and I was unaware of this at the time. I understand that this is unsatisfying, and I regret canceling. But gave some community contact information regarding their community.minneapolis@usdoj.gov. So I can share that in the chat for commissioners if people did want to still send comments or any questions. But yeah, that's the excuse that we got. So I mean, this was unexpected on his behalf. Again, I understand that.
I honestly think it doesn't sound like that they're trying to do anything beyond that. So I mean, I think that there's just open the door again and this time.
Definitely. Well, Commissioner Signani, your input means a lot to me, being that we had a chance together to engage with Ethan, and he sounded really eager to engage with us. So one of his hopes was that we can have our door open, hopefully, in the future. And so if there's some better planning, maybe we can get something on the books.
As I fully expect you to be chair again, we'll just re-engage in February.
Absolutely. Well, that's all I had for unfinished business. Anybody else on the commission? Any other commissioners? Otherwise, I will open it up for public comments. I know that earlier we did have somebody from the public. So the next order of business is the acceptance of public comments. And I will open the floor and invite comments from the community. Each speaker will be allowed to speak for 2 minutes. So with that, are there any community members on the line who wish to address the commission?
Hello, this is Dave Bicking of Minneapolis, and just wanted to comment about the lack of appointments and reappointments for your commission for next year. This, should be absolutely shocking, and it's just one more indication that the Civil Rights Department and the city as a whole is obstructive to your organization and to its purposes. I should tell you that the same thing is happening to the Police Conduct Oversight Commission. They, one of the excuses, they had to extend the deadline. That deadline was extended to October 22nd, which is virtually 2 months ago. And the 3 people who I know personally who have applied to the Police Conduct Oversight Commission have not heard a word about their appointments, nothing to indicate why it's delayed or whether they are even being still considered, and of course, no interviews whatsoever. And it sounds like the same thing is happening here. And it's just, this seems deliberate, the continual lack of respect for your commission and its purposes, and the other, groups involved with the Civil Rights Department. So, and of course, the difficulty in getting information about the less lethal munitions. It was the city council that asked the Civil Rights Commission to look into this. And for them, it's been, 7 months or something since they passed that resolution. For them to still be stalling, either through the police department or the Civil Rights Commission or whoever, still stalling on giving you the information you need for that. Again, this should be shocking, and the city is just frustrating any efforts towards real progress on civil rights. Thank you.
Can you remind me your name again?
Oh, yeah, this is Dave Bicking, B as in boy, I-C-K-I-N-G.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks so much for your time. I want to thank you all for your comments, and I don't think there's anybody else from the public tonight. But thank you, Dave. The final item on our agenda is the reports from our standing committees and task forces. So we'll begin with the Community Engagement and Research Subcommittee. Commissioner Folk.
Yeah, so we met in our last meeting, we met to discuss kind of updates regarding the awards that the committee, the subcommittee has been leading this year. And so we had just kind of wrapped up our last round of awardees, and Commissioner Devin should play a really big role in providing the certificates to all of the awardees. And so we were just discussing for the next round of awards, and we just wanted to put out a call and reminder to the broader commission that when we had discussed the awards in the past, that we did open it up for kind of the commission to bring any nominations of any nominees for consideration. So just wanted to bring that reminder to the broader commission.
Is there a certain process that commissioners should take to sending this subcommittee names, or does this happen?
Yeah, so I wonder if there's a way to circulate. I believe we had discussed in a couple commission meetings ago, the broader commission, we had voted and approved this like rough outline of a process that we had discussed and had brought through from the subcommittee. So I wonder if there's a way we can recirculate that to the broader commission. I believe at the time when we wrote that, Commissioner Gold was still the chair. So I think in the interim, names could be submitted to me just since Commissioner Gold is no longer with the commission.
Great, thank you for that. Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
if you want to send that to me or maybe
Yeah,
BCC it out to the commission.
Yep, I can do that.
Yeah, it would be a great way to get that disseminated and get some folks nominated. I know there's plenty out there. Was that all? Sorry, Commissioner Folk.
Yep, that's all for my updates.
Perfect. And then we'll move to the Standards and Procedures Subcommittee with Commissioner Fine, or Chair Fine, and then Vice Chair Stignani.
Okay, standards and procedure has nothing to report. We did not meet in the last month.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Fine. We have Workforce and Contract Compliance Subcommittee. Commissioner Stignani, I know Commissioner Rance is not with us tonight. Do you have an update for us? Oh, wait.
There we go.
Chair,
yes. We ended up canceling the meeting due to conflicts. And so we did not meet as well last month.
Okay. So with that, I'll give to that, I'll respond and just wondering, maybe from previous commissioners or from Kayla from the department, how we go about, if this is if we wrap up the subcommittees for the year, what is the normal process that we've had in the past? Or like, because it sounds like some folks haven't met yet, but do we just put them on hold until the new commission, or are folks still planning on meeting? I guess is my question. Sorry.
And I can jump in here, and potentially Andrea has a better answer to this. My understanding is that the subcommittees wouldn't meet until a new commission was seated, with subcommittees then, assigned. But why don't we look into that and make sure that is in fact the case, and send that out with that additional information tomorrow.
Okay. Will do. Do you have an update for us at the department level? I know we've kind of already gotten a lot of updates from you already.
Sure. Are you referring to just my agenda piece?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So, I think we've covered a lot of it, but another plug to everyone who can complete their review panels by the end of the year. We really appreciate it. We did just get 2 in, so thank you to the folks who were able to finish those 2, but I believe we have 3 still outstanding, and we would really appreciate that. It really is helpful for us, especially working with members of the public, to be able to get them an answer in their appeals as quickly as possible. So we would really appreciate that, especially if there is any possibility that we would have to reassign panels. That will, of course, be a large additional chunk of time where folks are waiting for a decision from the commission. So I would really encourage that. If you have questions and concerns about anything, feel free, as always, to reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss any of those with you. And otherwise, it's been a pleasure working with the commission throughout the year, and I wish everyone a very happy holiday season, and look forward to continuing our work together in 2022.
Thank you, Kayla. Oh, yeah, Andrea.
Yes, I did want to just jump in here, since I see that Kayla is the last item on the meeting, and I didn't want us to adjourn quite so quickly when I thought I could briefly answer your questions right away this evening. So thank you for humoring me. First, to the question about whether the commissioners will continue on until a new commissioner is appointed, our ordinance does provide that members shall continue to serve until their successors have been appointed. So to the extent that no new commissioners have been appointed to those seats in January, the current members can continue to serve in those seats. Hopefully that would provide adequate time for panels to be wrapped up, because if a commissioner does not continue on in the commission and the panel is not wrapped up by the time their successor is appointed, they would need to be replaced. The rules of contested case procedure do provide for a commissioner to be replaced, so the whole panel would not have to be scrapped and begin again. But obviously, if one person is replaced, then the whole group then has to meet again. So there is inefficiency there. So hopefully the time lag can provide adequate time for those panels to be wrapped up. As to the question of the committees have been formed according to the IOPs at the January meeting of each year, but there's no explicit rule that says the committees are disbanded as of the 31st of the year. So if they wanted to continue meeting in January, if there's no new commissioners in those seats, it would be permitted under the rules for the subcommittees as currently constituted to meet again one more time. I hope that covers all of the items that you've asked me about, but if not, please feel free to follow up and I will do my best.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Neff. Thank you for that. And thank you to all of commissioners and city staff that have been a part of the commission meetings for the past year, and just been consistent in providing updates and engaging in the work that we're doing here. So I do want to give you a thank you for that. And I hope everyone has happy holidays. With that, this is our last meeting for the year that we are concluding, and we'll see everyone back here for the next commission meeting on January 17th, 2022 for the regular meeting. As Ms. Neff just described, any commissioners that are being any commissioner seats that are being replaced this year, you may stay on the commission until your seat is taken by a new commissioner. I'm using horrible language, I apologize, but until somebody from the our applicant pool has been able to take your seat. So please welcome to come to the January 17th meeting. But seeing no further business to come before us and without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chairman.
Were folks interested in sticking around for an executive meeting?
Yeah, I'm available.
Yes.
Okay.